Hello and welcome to another tier list. I'm back again. I'm doing the tier 2s today. Not gonna cram in the tier 3s as well, it's gonna take way too long. But yeah, you can go see the last video if you want to see my credentials. I bragged about myself there, I don't need to do it here. This video is going to be from the perspective of hard win streaking, and mostly it's just going to be based off of my intuition. So I'm going to talk about the characters that I see do very well and the characters that I see perform poorly or have like an asterisk to their name. There's been a lot of shifting since 2.0. I think a lot of these characters are better or worse than they were before, so let's get right into it. A few of the things that'll be why they shifted, by the way, are items and fights mostly. New items in the game, new fights, new synergies, new party comps, all of that stuff. So if I don't know, I will tell you. I just don't know why, but I've seen this character do well, and you can try it out for yourself and see what you think. Because ultimately, the number one thing you can do to get better at this game is to try things. Just do different shit, see what works, see what doesn't. So let's get to it. I got a little spoiler for you about where the gambler is going to go right off the bat. I didn't plan it out like this, but it did work out like this. I want to lead off by saying I think that there's a very flat curve. Almost every character is good in the early game, except for Gambler. I mean, that's not true. There's other characters that aren't good, but if you're starting out your run and you have really low damage and your option is between like Gambler or Medic, for example, sometimes you're going to have to click on Gambler because Medic is at max going to hit a 2, where Gambler has a very nice high cap. So you have to keep your eyes open for the situation, basically. You have to know that sometimes Gambler is the only option that you're going to have. It hasn't happened to me often, by the way. It's maybe only ever happened to me like 2 or 3 times where my starting team is pretty bad. It's like low damage output, and my first pick wasn't very much damage, and then my second pick is Gambler or like Priestess, right? And I go, man, I am just not going to have the numbers to kill Bramble. I guess I have to click Gambler. So, you know, I actually, in the last tier list in 2.0, my opinion was that Gambler was not that bad. Gambler got a lot worse because all of the items that replaced top and bottom got nerfed by a few tiers. So having the delay on seeing them is bad. But if you have a top and bottom replacer that isn't named Rejuvenation Wand, you can probably play Gambler and be okay with it. But I don't know. I mean, I do know, actually, Gambler is not something you want to be clicking on very often. It's been like maybe 3 picks total so far in 3.0 for me. But I want to talk about the editing real quick too. I'm going to edit in the character faces, but I'm not going to edit in all the keywords because that shit drove me insane in the last video. So I'll just put in the characters and you can see their sides. And if you don't know what they are, like if you don't know what the sides mean, go watch the last one. I covered most of the keywords in that one just naturally, and or just, you know, look it up. You can go check out the almanac for yourself if you really need. I can't do it again. I will lose it. It took me so long and I was like shaking by the end. Not literally, but anyway, just that quick. I wanted to get that out there too. Up next is Ranger. Ranger is good now. Ranger's really good now, I want to say. This character got so much better with just a slight change. Your options, your chances to hit X's are much lower. Sorry, I'm just going to pull her up here so I can see her sides. She is less likely to X out, but the big problem is that Ranger's damage output in single target is bad. Ranger has these cleaves, which really can do quite a bit for you, especially now. One of the other things that made Gambler worse is that a lot of the early fights are spread fights. It's so much more like bees, thorns, things like that. It's a lot less crones. I mean, Crone is just fucking gone. They killed her off. But it's a lot less like Crone and Boar and Wolf and things like that, right? So I wouldn't say I value the spread damage a lot more, but it's nice to have. And Ranger also has the potential to hit 2s and 4s for you. So I want to say that I think the character is good, but they are on the lower end of my pick rate. They're actually my second lowest picked. So, and that goes to show you what I was saying. I think that the curve for these characters is very flat. A lot of characters are going to be in the good tier. Let's go on to Rogue. I am shocked. I'm actually very shocked to say it, but I think Rogue is great. I'm just going to do it. I think Rogue is really, really good. I have been like ever since I started playing again back in January for 2.0, my opinion of Rogue has been slowly climbing. Rogue was my worst orange, I'm pretty sure, for a while, but this character is so good. No X's is really nice. The ability to dodge out of things is really nice. Poison means that early bosses can never just stall you out, because sometimes early bosses will just grind you out, right? Like Bramble Wolf Alpha particular, or Bramble Alpha Troll particularly will just grind you out, and Slime Queen can do it too. So you get a ton of value if you're forced into playing defensively out of just letting the poison roll. But you can also always roll down for the cruel if you need it. And Rogue just doesn't die. I think this character is super good. I don't know why I hated her so much, but yeah, I think Rogue is super good now. And I mean, it wasn't like anything changed though. That's the thing. Rogue is the same character. My opinion just shifted. Spellblade also is very good. Spellblade is more of a pretty good and really, really good if you get the items for her. Now, obviously, a big asterisk here that we didn't have to talk about before. If you don't know this, in Force parties and other parties that don't have a blue, mana-based characters are banned. I think you can get Spellblade with reds too, but if you have like an all orange, yellow, gray party, you can't see Spellblade. She is banned from showing up. So you don't even have to think about her in that context. So out of that context, in the context where you are playing Spellblade with a blue, this character is so good. 1 damage, 1 mana gain is very, very good, and you can't miss. And the big thing about Spellblade, which was always true, is that if you get a good item for this character, suddenly she's like the strongest character in the game. Also, Imbue is still really good. I'll put the spells on for you so you can read those. By the way, in the editing, you can see those. Well, this is also like me telling you this. You can already obviously see them, but I'm telling you this so that I remember to do it too. And specifically for Spellblade, because I will forget to put Spellblade spell on almost certainly. Anyway, yeah, this character is super good, holds a ton of items really well, and if you get the right item combo, is better than most tier 3s very quickly. So, shout out. Trapper's just good. The Trapper fell off quite a lot. Trapper was, in 2.0, I thought the strongest orange, but I've come around. The vulnerable isn't that good, and the kill shot never hits. Trapper did change to get a second dodge, so a little bit better because of that, but I don't know. It's not something that I'm like hyped up about, right? I'm not going, oh, fuck yeah, baby, Trapper, but I'm not sad about it either. I'm just fine with it. You know the deal with Trapper too. Pairs really well with Herbalist still. Anyway, you have to think about it in the sense that Trapper is as good as you are good at hitting a lot of times, right? If you have a lot of mana gain, Trapper becomes better because you burst a lot. Hitting 4 2s is better than 2 4s, and 8 1s is ideal. So just keep it in mind. Ninja, I will say it, is good. Sorry, not great, not great, not great. My finger slipped. Ninja's good. Ninja's not great, Ninja's good. Ninja's good because one main thing changed, which we'll talk a lot more about in Gray, but Knight is like God. And in Force parties, you are twice as likely to have Knight because you get 2 Grays, and Ninja plus Knight is really, really good. Ninja also pairs well with Bard, Scrapper. Basically, all of the characters that Ninja wants to play with are Grays and Yellows, and in Force, you see 2 Yellows, 2 Grays. So Ninja has a much easier time pairing with someone that cares about her. And in the basic party too, you can play pretty fine stuff with Ninja, you know? You can still play Caldera, which is good. There's plenty of things that combo well with Ninja. I don't know if Ninja has any good combos with the greens, and I'm going to be honest with you, I hope I never find out. But yeah, the copycat just ends up being better because you're playing more yellows and grays in Force, and outside of Force, I don't know. It's fine. I feel like she still isn't getting sniped that often. Juggler is God. Juggler is actually the #1, I think. Juggler is the GOAT, for sure. It's, I think it's undisputable. Getting a second 2 damage side made this character push so much damage. I don't care about the 1 damage self cantrip. It's no problem. Juggler just like shreds. It's so insane. It doesn't even need items, but if you get good items, the big one for me too that I've seen do well is Leaden Handle does really well for Juggler because you can spread the damage out. And also Doomblade, the guilt item, fine for Juggler too. But even just on her own, I think Juggler is God. I think she's the best tier 2 orange by far. It's a pretty big gap, but yeah. Shoutouts to Juggler. And Dabbler. Dabbler, I don't really have a strong feeling on, because if you keep up with the main episodes, the series, if you will, that's what I'm trying to say. I saw no Dabblers for so long. It's probably partially because I play so much Force, but Dabbler just does not show up in my runs. So I don't have a strong feeling about Dabbler, but I liked Dabbler before and I thought she was fine, and I bet she's still fine. Alright, into the yellows here, we got Sinew. Sinew, he's good now. I'm sorry, you're going to be shocked to hear it, but Sinew has been performing really well for me lately. He has two big things that I think make him a lot better. The new item Inner Strength at 4 and Stasis being moved down to a 5. Both of these things just cheat past Exert, and suddenly this guy is a 4 damage monster. He hits it often with 2 sides, and sometimes you get to play around Chain, which is cool too. But mostly it's just that Sinew hits, if you hit those items, he carries. But I will say, he's not something that I'm excited to click on. I'm not like, oh yeah, let's go Sinew. But if you have the items for him, he's really good. Most of the times where I've picked Sinew though, he's like my first or second round pick, and I just go, well, I need someone who hits damage, and the other option here is like Pilgrim, right? Sinew hits damage, Pilgrim does not hit damage, I click on Sinew here. And then you end up with a Sinew, and sometimes you keep him for a long time, you hit a good item, you know, the usual. So he's good, and I think he's going to probably stay good this time, because he was good when I started the game, and then I went, wow, wait, this unit sucks. But I think he's going to stay good now. So shout out to him. And Whirl. Yeah, I'm going to drop him to the bottom tier. Whirl's a lot worse because I think that he was already bad, right? Before he was already at the bottom. He didn't get changed, and I think that all of the things that give +1s are a lot harder to find. And this unit really, really wants you to be giving him +1 or +2. So, I don't know. It's not going to be a shocking opinion, I don't think, that Whirl is in the bottom. There's not a ton to say. The biggest problem, I guess, with Whirl is that when you click him, you are saying, my yellow is just going to do a bunch of nonsense damage instead of target firing enemies down. So, the real problem is that he's really low damage output, and what you need in the early game especially is someone to kill a boss or two for you, and Whirl is very bad at it. Again, I want to continue to use these videos too as a way to try to help you get better. I am going to probably, after I finish these, do an actual hard win streak, like here's how you should improve. But something you should try to think about if you're losing a run where you started out with Whirl, ask yourself where you lost and why, right? Like if you picked Whirl and then you died to Bramble because you didn't have the damage to kill him before you ran out of sides, just look at that, right? And sometimes it's a little more insidious. That's a very obvious situation to see, but just something to help you start thinking correctly. Berserker is unchanged and he's still very good. He always puts out his 4 damage. He has his Death Wish to fall back on. He has a Cleave. He's even gotten a little better because Pilgrim got added to the game. Very synergistic, but Berserker is just the GOAT. He's probably still the #1 yellow. Yeah, I wouldn't rate anyone above him, but he's probably still pretty high up there. I think slotting in, I could be convinced to put him in bad. I think I will. I'll put one character in the bad tier for yellow. I think he's still like okay, but Collector never hits interesting numbers. You're Collector, right? Hoarder, Collector, Curator. Yeah, you're Collector. He's just kind of like, I don't know. Let me actually check his sides because I never really keep track of what he has. Yeah, sometimes he hits a 4 with Death Wish, which is cool, but I don't know. The items that I think he wanted before, you just don't see him anymore, and losing the range didn't really matter. So I feel like someone needs to take the rap, or else this whole tier list is going to just be everyone's good, because everyone is pretty good. But I think that Collector, he's He's noticeably less powerful compared to the rest of the yellows, I think, but he's not as bad as Whirl. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna change this tier. I'm gonna call this the fine tier, actually, because he's not bad. He's fine, right? Where I think Sinew is actually pretty good, I think that this guy is fine. So that's gonna be my shift. Scrapper is great. He's a little bit worse because of the Pilgrim being added in, but that's not something to really consider. He's great in Force. He's so good. He's like who you want in Force because Force plays double gray. And this guy goes crazy, especially once you start getting into the tier 3 grays and you just have like Keeper plus Scrapper. Oh my god. But Bloodlust is still pretty good and Scrapper is still good. Nothing new there. This is Brute. Yeah, I always get Brute mixed up with the Gladiator. Brute is like, he's good. He shows up, he hits his 3s, he hits his 2s, he hits his stuns. They're like, he's boring and fine. He doesn't die, he has 8 health. He does more damage than a tier 1, and that's all you need. Good guy, Brute. The other one is Gladiator. They're like almost identical pick rates for me, and Gladiator's the same. He like, nothing changed between these two characters, and in my mind, these characters are exactly the same. They fill the same role, they do the same thing. They show up, they hit their 2 damage, they never die because they have self-shield. And yeah, the end. Soldier, I have not been offered Soldier very often. I'm gonna put him in the fine tier, but I plan to come back to this probably in a few months and do another one of these tier lists once I feel like I have played like another 100 hours, because this is around 80 to 100 hours played at this point. So probably in like another 200, 300 hours, I'll come back and I'll put another tier list out. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Soldier climb up the ranking, but all that changed is he got 1 HP. Now, I always said, if Soldier ever gained 1 HP, I bet he would be super good. The problem is that I think the yellows are just stacked. There's so many good yellows to play that I never really want to settle on Soldier. A big thing, too, is if you're playing Force, you can very easily force, for a lack of a better term, a specific yellow. It's, depending on the setup, if you have your other 3 picked, you can very often just force them to give you either Berserker or Scrapper, so you don't have to settle when you start pressing random. Right, that's the other thing. I forgot to talk about this. They added a random button. I forgot to even mention this. So if you're offered 2 really shitty characters that just ruin your run, you can just press random and it gives you a random upgrade. With that, you can really force them to give you a specific character, especially in multi of the same color parties. So I forgot to even mention that. It's like implied in my reasoning, but I forgot to say it out loud. So yeah, I just think that Soldier is fine in a world where everyone else is doing a lot more. Except for Whirl. But no, I randomed into him a few times and he did a good job. Hitting 3s is strong. So you probably just have to get rid of him quickly. Okay, let's talk about the grays. I think that the grays across the board got a lot better. We can lead off with Guardian. Guardian got buffed. I'm gonna put Guardian in the weird tier because he's not terrible. He does his job very fine, but I'm not happy to see Guardian, but I'm also not mad to see Guardian. The reason that he's going in the weird tier and not the fine tier is because Guardian has like a huge power swing. He is like top 2 grays if you have Scrapper. Because on turn 1, Guardian drops a 3 shield engage on Scrapper and Scrapper hits a 7, which is an insane setup. 2 dice to hit a 7 and put up 6 shield like that. It's so good. So I think Guardian gets to go, he gets to dodge fine tier and go technically down a tier into the weird tier, but the weird tier is just like I don't know, it's weird, right? He has a big swing. Before I was Guardian's biggest hater, and I think he's still pretty awkward, but he performs well in Force, which is the big thing. When he's your only survival plan, he's just kind of like suspicious, right? But he performs super well in Force when you have a second gray, and if you have him with Scrapper, it's also super good now. So keep an eye out for that. Armor. Ooh, this one's weird. Like it's weird because I want to put armor like a full tier below. I guess I'm not really down to make another tier on this tier list. So I'll just put armor right here. The thing that's weird about armor is that nobody wants plus ones anymore. I guess armor has the same sort of swing, right? Armor is better in parties where you have one damage mana gain, and if you play force, this guy does nothing. Nobody in force wants armor, so he's like party comp dependent almost, because he's really wanted by blues and I guess like sinew maybe. But at the end of the day, you're not mad to play armor because he does his job of putting up shields just like every other gray. He's just a little worse at it. So, and like his gimmick of the smith is just like not good here. Like it's not good in force, I should say. But it's good with other parties, I bet. So, I don't know. He can go in the weird tier as well. Bard is good. We can finally get a good gray on the board. Bard is uh he has a new thing. He has else, which is his new little tactic. They're called. He converts X's into shield one cleanse. This is, and I have to really stress this, so nuts. It's so insane that Bard does this because now none of your characters have X's. They're just all shield one cleanse, which is a super strong side. And it doesn't cost anything. You can do it for free. You just use the X to get that. So Bard makes it so that nobody on your team can do worse than Shield 1 Cleanse. And you just get to roll to 0 way more comfortably. Sometimes you even want to roll the X's so that you can get the Cleanse to take off a status effect. So I don't care that he got changed and is like, oh, he lost the charged shield side. I don't care about that at all. It's a little sad for Ninja, but this dude, he goes crazy with that else. It's so, so good. I don't mind. Pilgrim goes in the weird tier too. I think that the grays in particular are weird because they are like, they're super reliant on the yellows. Pilgrim is good. Like, he is a very good character, but there are times where you hate to see him. If you're playing around steel, like you're playing around a scrapper in a force party, this guy can't provide shield. He actually cannot give you shield. It's not possible. So in that position, he ends up being kind of bad, but he can't roll X's and he has stuns and he has a lot of HP. So he's never really like he's not bad for your party, but he's bad for your damage output sometimes because converting grays into damage output is really nice and it's hard to do that with Scrapper. And if your Scrapper doesn't have support, he's also really bad. So it can kind of break up the team here if you have this in a bad spot. But on other teams, like a basic party team, he's pretty good. Especially Pilgrim loves Barbarian. And any other Pain character really likes Pilgrim too, because Self-Shield Pain is sweet. It's a great combo. So, you know, he's got that swinginess, which is why he goes in weird tier. It's like, pick him when he's good, don't pick him when he's bad, basically. Cleric is great. I've been clicking Cleric every time. Cleric is so good now. What a fucking turnaround, man. They gave her so much HP, and 2 mana, single use. Cleric is sweet. I will blind pick Cleric. This is like, I think she might be the strongest gray. It's close between her and Knight, but it's worth considering. So, yeah, click Cleric. She's so good. And she has a fucking spell now, dude, or a tactic. Is it a tactic? It's a spell, actually. It is a spell. Let's go, Cleric. They got her. I think if nothing else, if all 3.0 had was this update to Cleric, I would be happy. I'm so excited. I'm thrilled for Cleric. I'm really thrilled. Monk is next. I'm gonna put him. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put him in the bottom tier. I think he's really bad. He's been like consistently worthless for me. He has his use case, and his use case is he redirects shit off of your more important characters and then fucks off. But he's so awful. I don't know. He has no health, I feel, like comparatively. Was he's 8? Oh, he's 9 now, actually. Okay. Cleanse isn't something that I really value in the mid game, and the 3 shield redirect, I don't know. I've been like very consistently upset with Monk, but on paper when I talk it out, it's hard to tell you why because he should be fine. I think the problem is that he doesn't contribute any way to the damaging plan, right? Because people like Armorer and Pilgrim and Guardian, they contribute in their own way, right? Guardian is contributing by either one cleaving or buffing up Scrapper. Armorer is smithing or hitting his 3 damage, and Pilgrim is either giving you a reuse or making it so that your Barbarian can cast his spell being Punch like 3 or 4 times. Monk doesn't do this. What I will say is that he does redirect Pain off of Barbarian. So if you redirect Monk, or like you use the redirect on Barbarian from Monk, Barbarian's Pain will hit Monk and not Barbarian. I'm saying Barbarian, but I mean Berserker, by the way. Either one, it doesn't matter, same thought. So there is that, at least, but... And in that sense, it's sort of like it's just like he's a worse self-shield, or he's like a worse, inflict self-shield, I think it's called, or apply, maybe? Either way. I've had him be consistently very bad. He doesn't do damage, and he's not very good at keeping people alive. All he does is face tank things and fuck off. So, I don't know. I'm trying to reason it out with myself why he's bad here mostly, because I think most of these are pretty self-evident why they're good. But I don't know why Monk is bad, because there was a time early on where I thought he was the best Gray. So it's weird to see him be the worst now. I'm gonna leave it at that. Let me know what you think. Tell me what you think about Monk. Knight is God. He's so good. His tactic is incredible. Parry is so nuts because now you get to lock the 3 damage exert. Like round 1, you roll a 3 damage exert, you lock it in. You don't have to like work out exactly what it's doing. You can roll the rest of your dice, and you can either use it to kill an enemy off or block 3 for you without exerting. Both of which are very viable. He's sweet. He's so good, and he and Scrapper play really well together. And his steel sides are better in Force. Like they're so much better. They're not so much better because honestly, a lot of the Greys are not good at giving shield. But his steel shield actually has use cases now in Force, and you know they're okay in mana-based parties too because you can burst for it. It's just kind of weird. But yeah, I think it's Knight or Cleric to me for the best Grey. Warden is fine. I mean, he's good. He's better than fine. There is like, he is John normal. He does nothing. He shows up, he puts up his 4s, he puts up his 3s, he leaves. Sure, man. Whatever. Okay, into the reds now. So now I have to stop thinking about Force, which means I have to think about how these characters have performed for me historically. So again, I want to make sure I make this clear. Mostly, all I'm thinking about for the parties is Force and Basic, because I think almost every other party is kind of bad, like in its own sense. That's been the feeling that I've been getting. So like, some of these reds and blues, they play better if you have multiples, like if you're playing the mountain party where you have 2 blues, 2 grays, or you're playing defensive where you have 2 reds, 2 grays. And you can win with these, don't get it twisted. I just think that they have a lot more glaring weaknesses. So I'm not going to be talking about it, thinking about like, how do these interact with each other? Because probably 90% of the time when I play reds, I'm playing Basic or Sisab. So keep that in mind when we talk through this as well. But if you like playing the wacky, silly parties, by all means, have your fun. I just think that they get kind of stonewalled by some situations. Anyway. Priestess is fine. I originally, when I let off, I thought Priestess was going to be the worst red. I thought she was going to be so bad, but I got forced into taking her a few times, and Priestess is really good as long as you never get baited into locking her sides that aren't the Vitality side. Heal 4 Vitality, it pushes you through so much shit early on. Like, you heal so much, you get so huge off of that, and everything else she does is terrible. So you treat her like that. However, that's not 100% correct because sometimes you'll just want to lock 1 heal mana gain because that gives you enough to burst to save a life maybe. So obviously not 100% hard and fast, but And why that matters, by the way, this is for process improvement if you have this trouble. The 4 vitality might be better, but if you're on one roll with the heal 1 mana gain sitting face up, and you know that if you roll and you hit the heal 1 to all, someone dies, that's the sort of time where you just settle. Don't push your luck, basically. So, I don't know. I think Priestess is mostly just fine because you can't X out, and heal 4 vitality is good, though. Vampire is great now. They gave Vampire a second mana side, and this character just became, like, maybe the strongest red? It's close. It's her or Herbalist for sure. She's so good. She makes mana. She hits her 2 damage. Her heal spell is still fine. She has a heal 5 if you need it. Yeah, never dies. Makes good mana if you need it. Strong. Like, super strong. If you gave me first pick Vampire every single time, I bet my win rate would skyrocket. Herbalist is unchanged, and Herbalist is still very good. Vine is probably the best spell in the game still. I don't think anything's changed. Yeah. I think that's it. I don't have anything else to say. It's like, I guess if you're newer to the game, like, and you didn't watch the 2.0 stuff, I am kind of just like shortcutting some of these because of my 2.0 opinions. So Herbalist is good because Vine is really good, and Vine is really good because it's very nice to always have exact lethal and always have exact saves. It means that your mana gets to be spent efficiently, and that is really good. And sometimes you use the regen, but mostly it's just that Herbalist is attached to Vine. Pretty sure you could attach Vine to, like, Statue, and I might still think it's good. Okay, Disciple is now going down to, like, the fine tier. Disciple is a lot worse. Before, in 2.0, you get a pass, like, Disciple got a pass here because you really wanted consistent mana generation out of your reds. You still want that, but now there are 4 consistent mana generating reds, and this is the worst one by a lot. So a lot of times I think you're just not clicking on Disciple, because what Disciple does is worse than what all of the other mana generating reds do. No one wants double use heal and revive. You want damage, or I guess regen sometimes, because, you know, Herbalist. But yeah, I think you just dumpster this character. It's pretty bad. I'm gonna take Druid next because Druid is the last of the 4. Druid gets to go right in the middle. Druid is good, and I'm not gonna skip Druid, but Druid is not my pick. I'm not like, oh yeah, baby Druid, but I'm not gonna be like, oh god, Druid either. It's fine. She does her job. She hits you your 2 mana. She's just kind of like the worst one at doing it, but sometimes you need her spell. I'll make a quick note for you here. In mana-based parties, like in parties that are making a lot of mana, like you're playing double red, double blue, I do think Druid is a little better because her spell is very good, because it's great value in situations like that. But, you know, I don't. Vine is better in most situations. But if you have like a ton of mana, like Druid plus Caldera in a 2 red, 2 blue party is super strong, for example. But again, moving on. I'm missing a red, aren't I? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, I just forgot about Priestess already. Alright, you ready? I'm not ready. Deep breath. Okay, I'm ready. Faye is terrible. I don't know. Maybe the game has shifted. Something is wrong. Something is different. But I think Faye is awful now. Like, I cannot click on this character. I just can't bring myself to do it. I have a 3 out of 20 pick rate on Faye. I've picked her the same amount of times as Enchanter. Like, hold on a minute. Let me get around to this. What happened to Faye? Did they change her spell, first of all? Oh yeah, it's single cast now. That's first off. I didn't even care about that. I think Faye is worse because boost is a lot worse. Boosting is just like, it's really meaningless a lot of the time in 3.0. It's just not something you ever really find yourself wanting to do. There's a lot less times where you go, oh yeah, boosting goes crazy here. So I find myself never boosting. So all Faye is then is these 2 weakened sides, and it is not worth taking a unit that guts your mana generation for the ability to sometimes weaken a summon, also attached to a 5 HP body. It's sad to see the fall off, and maybe I will end up shifting my opinion, but I think a lot of what changes things like Fae and the way the tempo of the game is played is hard to pinpoint because it's things like curses. Is Fae worse with the new set of curses we're playing with? I'm not really sure. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's the different fights. It's hard to say for certain. All I know is that I do not click on Fae. I think she's so terrible. And I really haven't seen anyone echoing anything other than, or saying anything other than Yed's character is really bad. So, it's weird to see. What happened to Medic? Oh, Medic got a spell change. Set a hero to 4 HP for 1. I don't know. I think I'm willing to call Medic fine for now. I was coming around. Pardon me. I was coming around on Medic last time we played. I was like, maybe Medic isn't so bad. Maybe this character is just alright. The healing output is still very high. I just prefer to click on Vampire, Druid, or Herbalist, so Medic doesn't see a lot of play. But I think if you have to, right? She's about the same as Priestess in terms of value. Enchanter gets the weird tier. People tell me this character is good. I think Enchanter is as good as you want her to be. I'm sad to see the changes they made to her because Enchanter was just starting to I was starting to just realize that Enchanter was actually sweet. And then she got fucking thrashed. But add Engage is cool, and the heal self shield is cool, but a little worse because Pilgrim's in the game. And obviously she has this big 2 heal shield mana gain, which is super good. But her spell is like wacky. So this flip spell, what this does is it flips the spell, like it flips your dice around. So if you're looking at the left face, you'll be looking at the right face. Top, you're looking at bottom, and middle, you're looking at far right. For 2 mana. Most of the time, it's worthless, but I would say like almost always it's worthless. But if you have like one super powered up side, like say you have a double stacked, double itemed up side, you're increasing your odds drastically to hit your side by just paying 2 mana. So, I don't know. The biggest problem that this character is going to face for me is that I don't give a fuck. Man, I am not checking which X I just rolled to see if I want to flip. So, I'm never going to respect Enchanter ever again. But maybe add Engage is cool. Okay, into the blues. What do I think? I think the blues are generally about the same. They're pretty much all fine. Yeah, I don't really think there's a bad blue anymore because the buffs to red made these characters good. So let's run through it real quick. Glacia's good. I don't think Glacia is God anymore because I find myself valuing Weaken a lot less. I just kind of want to kill things. Weakening seems like it's being a lot worse lately. So Glacia is just kind of like pretty good. Better than fine, right? She's good. And she does her job, she hits her mana, she can't miss, she gives you some weakened sources. But in a world where I have this overflowing mana from my reds now, I really want someone who just spends it more efficiently. So it's nice to have the option to weaken though. Maybe the new bosses don't care about weaken too. Do they? I mean, I guess the early game bosses don't care about weaken generally anyway. Anyway, moving on from that thought. I'm just like kind of working through it as we go. Jester is fine. It is definitely like settling. The only thing that I really like about Jester is that he pairs well with Juggler, who might be the strongest tier 2, but Juggler doesn't need the help, so I don't know. Flick is the same, the character is the same. You just let him roll for 3 mana, and if he hits, cool. And otherwise, you know, sometimes you lock dodge, or you lock the 1 mana single use if you need it to get lethal or save someone, right? Take your guarantees where you have to, but mostly, if he made 3 mana every turn, I bet he would be great. But for the most part, he's just fine. Maiko sucks. Maiko goes in the bottom tier for sure. The thought is the same, pretty much. I think that boosting got a lot worse. Oh, you know why boosting got a lot worse? One of the big things that I think pushes boosting into being a lot worse is the changes to ghosts. Ghosts now go intangible on 5 HP instead of 4. So boosting 3 to 4 is nowhere near as important as it used to be. It's only for zombies and I guess killing off bones. But instead of just spending my time boosting, I can have my character kill the bones instead of boosting someone else to kill the bones. So I dread picking Maiko. Maybe I'll come back around on him again. I think that I had a similar like hate, love, hate with him. So maybe life comes in cycles and I will love Maiko again one day. But for now, not really. Uh it's just weird. I'm thinking about it now. I think that every one of these blues that's left is like pretty good. Do any of them stand out to me as great though? That's what I'm wondering. I don't know. I'm not like I'm going through it in my mind. Well, let me do some of these real quick. Well, I guess let's if I just rapid fire through these tomorrow when I edit this, I'm gonna be so fucking mad at myself. So let's go step by step. I think Sparky is good. He's the one that might be great. You know, I'm gonna give Sparky great for now. I want to give it to one of them. I think Sparky is very good now. I don't know if I think he's probably the strongest actually. He's really, really strong. His spell to kill from 2, I originally thought it was just gonna be like, oh, he's a little worse, maybe he's about the same as he was before. It's way better because now for 3 mana, which Sparky plus a like herbalist make very consistently, you can kill any enemy at 4 HP, which is sick because it's just burst plus spark, and that's good. And because the mana gain is more consistent from reds, because of the addition of vampire, you're gonna get a lot more value out of the charge side. So yeah, I don't know. I think Sparky is probably worth considering great at this point. He really fucks them up. And if I had to pick one other to go in the great tier, and I think I will because I have I have 3 oranges, but 2 yellows, 2 grays. I want to give it to another blue as well. I think the other standout blue is probably Fiend, but what's my pick rate say? You know what? Yeah, that's true. I'll do him now. It's Caldera. Yeah. Caldera is the right choice. I don't know why I'm dragging my feet on that. Yeah, it's definitely Caldera. Caldera, he does big damage and he either hits 1 damage mana gain or 2 mana. Yeah. I had to convince myself of this, but he really is the guy. His only weakness is 6 HP, but who cares? He does so much damage. And he has a 3 damage stick, which is sweet. Yeah. It's right. I just didn't want to admit it. It is these two. Fiend is good. Fiend got worse because Monster Pristine is now a lot rarer. I haven't seen it yet. Have you? You know what? No, I think I actually have seen it. But it used to be that we were playing Monster Pristine a ton, and Fiend was like, he's so good at that curse. But I don't know. He's pretty good. He's good at making mana, and that's all that really matters. And he makes 2 damage as well, pretty well. But for the most part, I think that I find myself just killing myself with burn a lot more often than anything else. So, I'm not mad to pick Fiend, right? He's good. He's just not like, ooh, we won the game, it's Fiend. Maybe I'll come back around on Evoker. I think Evoker is fine. He's just Gambler, but the gambling part is just the mana generation, so you can get mana from the rest of your team, and that's pretty cool. So, good for him. Drop is good. It's 3 mana equals 4 damage, which is fine. But mostly he's just gonna sit there and miss a lot of the time, and you're gonna go, oh, Evoker, what the hell? And a surprising finish here. I think I am gonna give Seer the good tier. I think Seer is actually pretty strong. The 3 mana sticks let you do a lot. You either just burst down a priority enemy, or you start foretelling if you can greet it. I find myself really liking Seer now, but sometimes I forget to cast foretell and then my character runs out of mana and I go, whoops. But better support from the reds too, where you're always making a lot of mana now if you want to, and he does pretty well. So this is where I would stop. I will go through the greens with you real quick, but this is my general power level feelings for hard win streaking. Like, because if you're just trying to play basic and force, this is what you're gonna see, right? My notes are these are the pretty bad characters, but realistically, it's one of each. But I think that it's probably more like this in terms of how much I would want to click on them. That's might go as bottom actually. It's actually like this. Now that I think about it. But I think Gambler is the one who is closest to clawing her way out of the worst of the worst. But yeah, I don't know. I think that outside of these 5 delinquents, most of the characters are pretty much fine. Fine to great, we should say, right? Like the weird stuff is still good. These are mostly just grays that have little asterisks next to when they're good. It's like pick them if they're good, don't pick them if they're bad, right? For these guys, or if you want to do the flip math. But anyway, now let's talk about the greens real quick. Again, I just want to stress this: if you're trying to win streak, avoid playing greens because they're so strange. Okay, let's get into it. Alien was the first new thing that I saw, so he has a special place in my heart because he's in the first episode. He's the guy, right? So like, I do feel something for him, and what I feel is hatred. I think he's really bad. His spell is cool, but something I found is that, or it's tactics for greens. Something I found is that you just don't cast it. Like, it's super hard to get this thing to go. I find it like it's hard to have a lot of enemies under 2 HP for him to kill. So, what is the criteria for Alien to cast? Is it, what does he need? Yeah, he needs a blank and 2 damage. That's a lot of asks too, but you know. I think he might be, well, he's not the worst green, but he's pretty gross. Presence is fine. The Presence is probably the best of the two. No, Presence isn't the best of the 2-tier greens, but Presence is pretty good. The problem is if you first or second pick this character, you can just have no damage. One of my losses when I was building the streak originally was I took Presence as my second pick, and then I just did not have the damage to kill Bramble. I ran out. So it's important to keep in mind that this character contributes very little in terms of damage, but does some cool stuff, so it's all right. It's almost like, you know, situational, but I'm gonna move on. Sphere, I'm gonna sadly give this good. Sphere is like, it's fucked up that Sphere is in the game because Sphere just enables you to do infinites like crazy. There's so many item combos that just make this thing go forever. Which is very goofy, but Heavy is the head that wears the crown, and also his heavy tactic is usually worth playing. Sphere is just weird because sometimes you have to lock the rerolls so that you can hit the tactic. You cannot roll to 0 with Sphere, and it's weird to break the muscle memory, pretty much. But, you know, 10 HP and a stun is cool. Statue, I actually think Statue, I mean, look, I'll put Statue in the weird tier. I think Statue sucks, but I did just finish a stream where I saw Statue twice as my first pick, so I will give Statue a little benefit of the doubt. I think Statue is good when Statue is good because Statue is good when Statue is good. Hope that helps. Spine is like the biggest what the fuck is this that I have seen in this game. I actually cannot conceive of when this character is good. I guess, so I think that the thing is, I don't have a strong feeling about what greens are supposed to be doing. Because like, you know, you have a good understanding. Orange, yellow, they do damage. Red, they heal. Gray, they defend. Blue, they cast spells. They make mana, they cast spells, right? What the fuck does green do? I don't know. And I think that the idea is that green is supposed to flex. Because, like, Spine is a healer, which is super, super weird. But, yeah. That's what this character does, and like they're kind of a weirdo healer. They're like a healer and a damage dealer, kind of. It's like they do a little bit of damage, a little bit of healing, and if the enemies target them, it's good. It's damage back to them. But I don't know, man. This thing's so bad. Does anyone like Spine? I doubt it. Coffin is weird, and the weirdness of Coffin is that if you pick Coffin as one of your first like 4 picks, you're so fucked. I guess first 3. You can pick Coffin second to last or last, and it's cool because having a whole extra body, having all that extra health is very good. Coffin has one major flaw, and his name is the Hand, because Hand does not give a fuck and will just blast you for 7, and you just disintegrate. It happened to me. I got double 7 by the Hand, and my whole party died, and I went, oh, my fault. My bad, G, my bad. But yeah, so the moral here though is if you like Coffin, you can click it as your 5th character or your 4th character pick. And if you click it any earlier, you're stuck with a dead tier 0 forever, which is really bad. Mimic also has to go in the weird tier, right? Just a bunch of weirdos in the tier 2 greens. Mimic is as good as your party. If you like to play multi-mana parties like blue, blue, red, red, green, for example, Mimic is a lot better because Mimic mimics whatever your party does. So it's like it amplifies. It doesn't ever bring you any contrast. It just does whatever your guys do better. Or, I mean, not better. It just repeats it, which is cool. Very fine. I have no problems with this. I think that Mimic tends to be on the better side, maybe one of the best tier 2 greens, but also can be one of the worst. So you just have to check how good it is for yourself. And I think Granite can take the best slot. I'm not going to put Granite in the great tier, but Granite is the best green, in my opinion. I don't know. The stone HP is really good. That's all there is to it. The 2 stone HP means that it's super, super hard for enemies to kill Granite off, and Granite just sits there, tanks damage for you, hits big, or hits acceptable damage, big for a green, and does pretty well. So I give Granite a thumbs up for sure. I think this is like probably one of the best picks for your tier 2 green. But something I'm noticing, my opinion of all of the greens for the tier 1s was like, oh man, these all are really bad. But it's not actually like that. They're mostly just pretty serviceable. The tier 2 greens, though, are where you go, holy shit, what do any of these things do? So I think that's why I was so hard on the greens in the last video, because these guys, like, oh my god, these are all bad. And eventually you're forced to pick one of these. So the nightmare scenario, Coffin spits out a tier 2 green. So I think that'll do it. I don't have anything else to say. That wraps it up. Hope you've been enjoying these. I'll do one more, maybe tomorrow. Maybe it'll take me a few days, but we'll do the tier 3s and we'll be done. I hope you find these helpful. Hope you find these enjoyable, entertaining, soothing, relaxing, life-changing, world-altering. Maybe. And I will see you in the next one, whenever that is, and you have a good one. Goodbye.